Chapter 2. Seeing Mother After 49 Years. We entered the room where Geneva sat on her bed wearing black jeans, a black skull cap, and a gray fleece jacket under a black leather coat as if she was getting ready to go outdoors. There were 3 beds in that room. I remembered April had told me she shared the bedroom with 2 other women, one of which was in the room. She was a heavy-set younger woman. The tiny, older woman sitting on the bed, who was my mother, did not look the way I had always imagined she would. I had a picture of her in my mind based off a young adult picture in her late 20s, which I had kept since I was a little girl. The picture I had portrayed a woman who was well-dressed, with styled hair, a round face with a smooth complexion, light-colored skin, slightly slanted eyes, full lips, white teeth, and a bright, beautiful smile. The woman who I was looking at looked like the exact opposite and had the appearance of someone who lacked the necessities of life. The cap she was wearing covered the frizzy gray hair that was sticking out on each side. Her face was oval-shaped, with a weary look in her eyes and only a few teeth left. Seeing what she looked like brought back memories of how, as a young child, I desired to take care of her. I wanted to find her, bring her home, and give her all of the love she deserved. As I stared at this estranged woman, I thought, if she had been in my life, she would not look this way. I had always thought I would recognize my mother if I ever saw her. I thought she would look just like me and that I would know immediately that she was my mother. Honestly, I do not know why, but I thought she would be taller. This little woman was contrary to what I had expected. All of a sudden, I felt unsure if she was actually our mother. In that moment, I began to feel fearful that we might have traveled all of those miles just to reunite with a woman who was not our mother. As soon as my siblings and I saw her sitting there, we immediately began to try to determine if this was our mother by asking her questions like, "What is your middle name? And what was your mother's first name? And do you remember living in Kansas City, Missouri?" She seemed afraid and overwhelmed by all of our questions. She looked up at my 3 big and tall brothers, then glared at me and said, "I don't know who you are. I'm not going to talk to anybody because I don't know you all." We explained our belief that we were her children who she left in Kansas City almost 50 years ago. We told her we did not want anything from her, that we missed her and wanted to see her. She looked at each of us again, and just when it appeared she might actually accept us as her children, she said, "You are not my people. Anybody can come in here and say they are my people." Just then, her roommate exclaimed, "Geneva, these are your people. They look just like you, and they have pictures of you." "What do you have to do with that?" Geneva asked her roommate. Then she turned back to us and said, "You all are strangers. I don't talk to strangers about anything personal. I'm not giving out any information unless I know who I am talking to." We asked her what it would take for her to know. She just looked at us and did not answer. I told her I brought my birth certificate. She looked at me as if she might be interested in seeing my birth certificate. Then she said, "No, I don't want to see that." Just then, I reached into a bag that I had carried in, pulled out a gift, and showed it to her. "Miss Geneva, I brought you a brand new soft throw blanket. I will just leave it here," I said as I went to place it on the bed next to hers. Despite looking tempted to accept it, she said, "No, I don't want that." Feeling saddened and let down, I put the gift back into my bag. In our disappointment, my brother Jerome and I asked her, "Do you remember speaking with us over the phone? You told us to come see you." We assured her she did not owe us anything, that we were not looking for any apologies, that we loved her and just wanted to see her. She said, "No, I don't trust that," and continued to stare back and forth at each one of us as if she wanted to get a really good look at what we all looked like. After skimming each of our faces, she did not receive us, just as my father had cautioned, so many years ago. I must admit, although I believed my father back then, there was a part of me that felt he may have been saying that out of his anger towards her. However, in that moment, I was actually witnessing the truth for myself, and it was sadly disappointing. I felt like this would probably be the last time I would ever see her, so I took a really good look at her. Our pleading with her to accept us seemed useless. Finally, in a moment of sadness, Terrence announced, "I'm done. It has been so long, who cares anyway?" With that said, we all turned towards the door of the bedroom and walked out with our heads held down, feeling rejected and heartbroken. All the money we had spent, the time on the plane, the excitement, the hope and anticipation we had while traveling turned into great despair and disappointment within a matter of minutes. I could not believe this was happening. I felt devastated as we made our ways towards the front door. Ashley followed us outside. She was very nice and kind to us. We all stood on the sidewalk in front of the boarding home. She listened to how we felt about our mother not accepting us, and she tried to encourage us. She reminded us that our mother had a mental illness and that she may just need time to accept us, since it had been so long since she had seen us. Ashley claimed that Geneva never talks to her and that she usually has a hard time getting her to take her medication, whereas April had given us a completely different account. Like April, Ashley was helpful and caring towards us. She acted very concerned about us having a successful reunion with our mother. I told Ashley that I really wish April had been there. I felt strongly that we would have had a better outcome if she had been. Ashley apologized to us for April's absence. Anyhow, I wanted to come back the next day because I at least wanted to see what would happen if April was there. She told us April would be there at 8 o'clock the next morning, and we were welcome to come back. After finally walking away from the boarding home, we sat in the rental car with an "I give up" and "forget this" attitude. Then we all spent a few minutes talking about what we had just experienced. I noticed my brother Terrence looked more like our mother than I had ever realized. Growing up, people always said my brother Grayson and I looked more like our mother than the rest of my siblings. However, I did not see Grayson nor myself in my mother's face at all. It was amazing to see what my mother looked like and which of my siblings looked like her. After the comparisons, the sad fact remained we had just been rejected by our mother once again. After some consideration, I said, "We should come back tomorrow when April is here. Perhaps April can be of help to us." After talking about it for a few minutes, we all agreed to return the next day and try once again to woo our mother into accepting us. We concluded that we had not traveled all of those miles just to give up now. We drove back to our hotel and did our best to relax our minds. Grayson and Terrence went out to eat dinner together, while Jerome and I opted for a quiet dinner at the hotel. At some point after we made our decision to return the following day, a very strong feeling of rejection came over me, and I just wanted to leave and go back home to Kansas City as soon as I could. A distraught feeling caused me to actually forget we had agreed to go back to try again the next day. My high hopes had somehow vanished, and I shared my feelings with Jerome during dinner. I cannot figure out why I suddenly gave up after being so adamant about us going back the next day. I just know that during our drive from the boarding home to the hotel, I replayed this one thing in my mind: the way Geneva looked at each of us in the face and rejected us without any remorse. I absolutely did not like the woman who we had just encountered, and I did not want her as my mother. After dinner, I retreated to my hotel room, then called to tell my daughter and cousin how the reunion visit had gone. Afterwards, I recorded a video of myself talking about how I felt. I had been recording my excitement about the trip ever since we were leaving Kansas City. I initially hoped to create an inspirational documentary of what I hoped would be a wonderful, heartfelt meeting with our mother. When things turned out to be disappointing, I thought, I'm not recording my feelings about this. However, I felt like it is what it is. Therefore, even though things had not gone as calculated, I hesitantly recorded my negative reaction to a reunion gone wrong. I talked about the heartbreaking situation we had just experienced and how April had stated if Geneva were her mother, they would live together in the same home. The woman I saw did not look like the woman April had described. I expressed how we were standing there in front of our mother, listening to her as she told us we were not her people, how devastating that was for me, and how I felt worse for my brothers because I could see they were hurting and I could do nothing to help them. While venting, I wondered what was worse, not knowing where my mother was or knowing where she is and knowing that she did not accept me. After recording my misery, I lay there feeling heartbroken, trying to see a positive side to having found her. I no longer had to search for her, speculate about where she could be, or wonder why I did not have a mother. Witnessing her living in a state of poverty and suffering from a mental illness helped me to understand why she left us. Nevertheless, it still hurt deeply. I had always blamed my father for her leaving, but after this failed reunion, I was placing all the blame on her. This experience had left me feeling rejected because I had finally come face to face with my mother, only to have her deny me. In my pain, I thought back about our final few moments at the boarding home. Although I did not think I looked anything like Geneva, I noticed one similarity. She kept biting her lips. I bite my lips. I have always known I copied the habit from someone, but could not for the life of me remember from whom I had copied it. Observing Geneva, it was clear I had copied it from her before she left us back when I was 2. That night, I spent hours on the phone with the airline and rental car company trying to find a way to leave and head back to Kansas City. A smooth exit was not possible. So I finally put my head on my pillow to rest for 3 hours before it was time to wake up again the next morning. When morning came, my brothers and I had breakfast together in the hotel dining room. While eating, Grayson asked me about my desire to return home. I thought we had all agreed to go back to see Mother today. That moment felt like a wake-up call urging me to remember our agreement. I told him I was in so much emotional pain after our first visit that I had actually forgotten our decision. We should definitely go back and try again, I told him. After breakfast, Jerome spoke with his mother-in-law on the phone about the results of our failed reunion. In all her wisdom, she encouraged us to go back one more time, but not ask Geneva for anything, not even for her to accept us. Just give her a nice greeting card, our phone numbers, tell her we love her, and let her know she could call us whenever she was ready. I liked that idea and felt grateful for her advice. That's exactly what we did. Jerome made a list of all of our phone numbers for us to leave with our mother. He and I used the hotel printers to make some copies of the pictures we had brought along so that we could leave them with her. Grayson purchased a beautiful greeting card to give her and included some pictures of himself and his family in the envelope. Little by little, our hope was rekindled and we were emotionally ready to go back and give it another try. I felt happy that I was not alone in this venture. We knew our mother was away from the boarding home at the Mental Health Treatment Center, also called The Center, where they provided games, group counseling, and mental health services every day from early in the morning until late in the afternoon. We pulled up to the boarding home about 1 hour before she was expected to return, with the hopes that we would finally have the chance to speak to April. My brothers had noticed during our first visit that our mother almost gave in to me a couple of times and that she seemed intimidated by them. They announced that I should go in alone this time, get her to open up, and invite them to come in once she was comfortable with my presence.
If you enjoyed this story, please like this video and subscribe to our channel.